and welcome back to the Fit Curls. My name is Angela. I'm a fitness professional and a curly hair enthusiast, and I use this channel to teach you how to keep your curls in shape. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell next to it so you don't miss a single thing. Now today, it's time for another deep dive, because I just finished reading Lorraine Massey's Curly Girl, a Handbook from cover to cover, and I have a lot of things to say about it. So if you're excited for the tea, hit this with a thumbs up, and without further ado, let's dive in. So what is Curly Girl, a Handbook? Well, this book, which was written by Lorraine Massey and published in 2002, and then updated and republished in 2010, is widely considered to be the Curly Bible. The author, Lorraine Massey, is a hairstylist born and raised in the UK and currently based out of New York City. She may be best known at this point for founding the DYSON salons, as well as the now notorious Diva Curl line of products and the Diva or Curl by Curl cut. Now, Massey is no longer associated with Diva Curl or DYSON. She departed from those brands in 2013 and has since gone on to open, as the sole owner, a salon called Spiral XYZ in Tribeca and a line of curly hair products called Curly World. Massey's entire personal brand is built on teaching women with waves, curls, and coils to embrace their hair and care for it as it grows out of their scalps, instead of fighting nature and trying to conform to the more straight hair-based beauty standards of our society, which is totally admirable. I am absolutely here for it. The handbook, in turn, offers precise step-by-step instructions on how to care for each of the 7 curl types that Massey lays out. And this forms what is now known as the global phenomenon, the Curly Girl method. Now, I've talked before about some of my issues with the CGM as I have mostly seen it practiced. But today I want to zero in on exactly what Massey wrote in Curly Girl, a Handbook, which is the OG, true to form Curly Girl method. So let's start with Massey's curl types, of which there are 7. I'm sure at this point many of you are familiar with the numeric curl typing system that we've seen all over the internet and in salons everywhere, but for this purpose we're gonna throw all that out the window because that has absolutely no relevance here whatsoever. Massey's curl types are cutesier. Within the 7 types we have Botticelli, Corkscrew, Corkicelli, Cherub, Wavy, Swavy, and Fractal or Zigzag. Confused? Don't worry, me too. Now, beyond their names and their purported distinguishing characteristics, like Cherub Curl's fine, fragile nature and the non-porous nature of Fractal or Zigzag curls, each type is assigned a very specific method of cleansing, conditioning, and styling, which is laid out step by step in great detail in the chapters of the book. The basics for each type remain exactly the same. Co-wash or cleanse with a non-lathering cleanser, drench the hair in botanical conditioner, finger detangle, leave most or all of that conditioner in your hair, scrunch in a palmful of gel, and air dry. That right there is the Curly Girl method. The details, however, of each routine are where things start to get a little interesting. Now, to give credit where credit is due, Massey's recommendation of keeping the cleansing, conditioning, and styling routine for each type of curls is highly commendable. One of the easiest traps to fall into when one starts one's curly journey is the product junkie rabbit hole. Buy all the products, get all the tools, do all the things. And that can lead to more confusion than anything else, because it's very difficult to distinguish out of all the things you just threw at the wall what actually worked for your hair and what didn't. It also gets real expensive real fast. So the idea of embracing a less time-consuming, very simplified, only 2 to 3 product routine is really great. I appreciate Massey offering a very simple alternative philosophy to the overcomplicated mess that a curly hairstyling routine can turn into. She also gives some really interesting and potentially helpful advice on techniques. Her recommended method of gel application is what I've commonly seen referred to as flip, coat, scrunch. and it's how I usually apply my own hold styler. She also recommends root clipping to enhance root volume, particularly in fine hair, teaches the reader not to touch their curls while they're drying, demonstrates that a crunchy gel cast can be scrunched out once the hair is dry, which, where was that in the 90s? And recommends some very low manipulation ways of shaping and refreshing wavy hair beyond wash day. While I don't think that all these techniques are guaranteed to be successful for everyone, I can see them being really helpful for some and a great starting place for most. There are a few pieces of advice that she gives that strike me as essentially harmless, but just kind of odd. Yeah, odd. For instance, she recommends barely touching your hair as you wet it, and throughout the shower to avoid disturbing your natural curl formation, despite her later instructions to finger detangle your hair when it's saturated with conditioner, which by definition disturbs your curl pattern. For some of the more fragile patterns, she even recommends wearing a hairnet while you cleanse your scalp to further avoid disturbing that delicate curl pattern. I don't think it will do any harm, but it strikes me as pretty pointless. Now, here's where I start to struggle. This simple method is fraught with strict rules and restrictions. As is the case throughout the book, some of these rules are based in logic or science, and some really aren't. First, all shampoos are prohibited. Massey allows only sulfate-free cleansers, but then goes on to decry all lathering cleansing agents. She insists that the real power of cleansing lies in the friction of a good scrub of your scalp with your fingertips, and then rinsing the buildup that has been loosened from your scalp away with water. Between washes, you're encouraged to spot cleanse with a lavender mist. Don't worry, I don't get it either. Massey also insists very specifically on a botanical conditioner, which must contain natural and organic plant extracts in the top 5 ingredients in order to effectively soften and hydrate the hair. Once you begin the method, you're also instructed to throw out every brush and comb you own. Finger detangling is the only way and must be done extremely carefully and delicately in order to not disturb your curl pattern. Keeping those detanglers company in the garbage should, of course, be all of your hot tools, straighteners, curling irons, hot combs, and even blow dryers if you're not planning on using them with a diffuser attachment. You have to quit heat cold turkey. Then we come to the list of individual ingredients that are verboten. Of course, we have the aforementioned sulfates, but the CGM also prohibits the use of silicones and alcohols in products, as well as using products like waxes or styling creams instead of gel. Use of any and all of these forbidden ingredients or products or tools is guaranteed, according to this book, to result in dry, broken, frizzy, damaged, lifeless hair. A lot of this method is steeped in the concept that natural is better. One of the most frequently used words in Curly Girl a Handbook is botanical. And Massey sings the praises of plant extracts for hair health over and over and over. She basically guarantees that botanical-rich products that are devoid of any of the ingredients on her oh no-nos list are perfectly safe in any amount and application and guarantee improved health for your hair. Hand in hand with praise for natural ingredients goes an emphasis on pure and organic sources. Massey includes an entire paragraph warning the reader of the dangers of greenwashing, i.e. the use of certain buzzwords like organic and naturally derived in the marketing of certain products without actually being assured that they are in fact USDA certified organic. As we discussed briefly in last week's video about silicones, this is a very deceptive claim. Just because an ingredient occurs in nature, it doesn't make it safe. In fact, all of the most toxic substances in existence are found in nature. The most frequent irritants and allergens found in beauty products are the same plant extracts that Massey swears by. Beyond that, the oils she recommends for curly hair, such as shea butter, vegetable oil, walnut oil, all have the ability to build up on the strands just as much as silicones do, particularly if you're only ever cleansing with botanical conditioner. But this whole book is filled with advice that preaches fear of synthetics and glorification of all things natural. So if this is someone's only source of information about how to care for their curly hair, they're probably gonna buy that too. As if that wasn't bad enough, Massey takes the natural is better philosophy to new heights with a host of DIY hair treatment recipes. A direct quote from that chapter says, "The only way to be totally sure a product includes ingredients that are good for your curls is to make your own." What follows is a long list of recipes with cutesy, punny names that heavily feature essential oils and food ingredients. Think powdered egg and mashed avocado. Now, this may seem very tempting as a way to save money and heal your hair all by yourself, but there are some serious issues with DIY treatments. Kitchen versions of common beauty ingredients aren't often able to fully penetrate the cuticle. Their molecular structure is it's too large. Cosmetic chemists specifically formulate with hydrolyzed proteins and certain oils mixed with solvents like alcohols in order to allow those natural ingredients to deliver their full benefits to your hair. So DIY recipes typically coat the strands but don't actually transfer lasting benefits, kind of like a brief facelift or coat of shine. Now granted, some of these recipes are based in science, such as diluted lemon juice used as a clarifying rinse. The citric acid in the lemon juice acts as a chelating agent, so this is actually a real thing. There's some major hypocrisy that shows here. For example, Massey's primary objection to sulfates is that they raise the hair's cuticle. But the culprit here is not lathering agents, it's an alkaline pH. Surfactants do typically have a higher or more basic or alkaline pH, but so does baking soda. But natural is better, right? So since baking soda is something that you find in your kitchen, it's totally safe. One recipe she recommends is even dangerous. She includes a recipe for a scalp scrub using uncooked quinoa as a physical exfoliant. Please do not do this. Quinoa is a seed. It does not dissolve in water, and it will cause microabrasions, cuts, on your scalp that in the moist environment of over-conditioned and air-drying hair will get infected and can lead to hair loss. And frankly, I expected better of a licensed cosmetologist. She should not be recommending physical exfoliation that is this harsh. And I could be wrong here, but I'm fairly certain, after reading this book cover to cover multiple times, that one of these DIY recipes contains only the second use of the word protein in the entire book, and gives no explanation as to why protein might be necessary for curly hair. Which brings me directly to my next point. Above all else, the primary message of Curly Girl, a Handbook, is that moisture is the savior of all curl kind. It's why Massey recommends cleansing with conditioner, leaving crap tons of conditioner in your hair before you style, avoiding drying ingredients like sulfates, silicones, and alcohols, and the list goes on and on and on. Some very common curly mantras can be found in this book, like frizz is a curl begging for moisture. And Massey even claims that there is no such thing as too much moisture, saying, and I quote, "The word greasy is almost never relevant to a curly girl." I and many others would disagree. Now here's the real problem with all of this. An all moisture, all the time approach will eventually wreak absolute havoc on every single hair type, but particularly on fine or high porosity hair. And porosity is a very tricky subject that is not fully explained anywhere in this book, ever, at all. At times, Massey calls all curls a dry, porous surface that she likens to a sponge. In others, she talks about the inherently non-porous nature of fractal and zigzag curls, or multicultural hair. I don't even have time to get into that one. She also says that, quote, as a rule, curly hair is very fine and straight hair is thicker, end quote. And goes on to reference experts that say curly hair is always lower density than straight hair, so thick curly hair is really just an optical illusion. As I'm very fond of saying on my TikTok, that's not how this works! Any curl pattern can be any porosity, any density, any texture, which is why a one-size-fits-all curly cure just isn't possible. And yet, that's exactly what Massey prescribes with the Curly Girl method. For all Massey's claims and rules and restrictions, she provides exactly 0 source material. There is not a footnote, annotation, or bibliography to be found anywhere. That is a ton of science to release without any supporting evidence. In place of citations of scientific journals and studies, the reader is treated to an absolute deluge of curly confessions. These testimonials make up the majority of the text in the book, and they're all stories of how the CGM, exactly as Lorraine Massey prescribes it, has changed not only their hair, but their lives. Over and over and over again, you see before pictures of frizzy messes and after pictures of beautiful frizz-free curls, next to text praising Massey as their hair savior. Frankly, testimonials like these are what convinces most people to start the Curly Girl method in the first place. But these testimonials are just stories. In scientific communities, they'd be considered anecdotal evidence and would maybe provide the basis for a hypothesis, but cannot be used to prove a theory. In a legal context, they're just hearsay, which is not admissible in court because it can't be proven. Lorraine Massey even says at one point her entire justification for every curly girl giving up shampoo is, I did it and it worked. Could something like the Curly Girl method be worth a test? Of course! As I've said many times before and will many times again, do what works for your hair. Different ingredients and different methods work differently for everyone because all hair is unique. But without any real evidence provided and no linked sources available for continued exploration, Massey's claims cannot be viably taken as fact. Now, like I mentioned at the top of the video, I've always had certain qualms with the Curly Girl method. But I realized while reading this book that what most consider to be the Curly Girl method is actually heavily modified from the original. On CGM social media, you see frequent mentions of layering in products like curl creams and foams, raking product through the hair before scrunching, balancing protein and moisture based on your hair's texture and porosity, rather than its curl pattern, none of which are sanctioned under Massey's method. If the more balanced approach that I see all the time on Instagram and TikTok were the real Curly Girl method, I would have so few qualms with it. But the level of restriction and pseudoscientific practice not only recommended but mandated by this book makes me genuinely uncomfortable. And the longer I sat with it, the more I understood why. Quick content warning here. I am about to go into the subjects of dieting and eating disorders. If this is potentially triggering for you at all, please feel free to skip to the timestamp here on the screen. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the world of eating disorders, which I genuinely hope you are, orthorexia is a disorder of obsession not with how much you eat, but with what you consume. Specifically, clean eating and the quality of your food. What starts as a well-intentioned desire to eat healthy evolves into an ever-growing list of bad foods and ingredients that you must avoid, and rules that one has to follow. This in turn can lead to a feeling of moral superiority regarding the individual's diet. Look how healthy I am because I don't eat that garbage. And the reality is they've restricted their way to declining health. Does this sound eerily familiar to anyone else? The CGM strikes me as curl orthorexia. It starts as a well-intentioned journey to embracing your hair, how it grows out of your scalp, but becomes an obsession with rules and clean ingredients. The deeper you go, the more damage you could unwittingly do to your curls, but the more devoted you become because this is the right thing to do. And among its most devoted disciples, you find a culture of moral superiority regarding ingredients, products, how many days you can go between cleanses, and a tendency to judge and even bully anyone who departs from Lorraine Massey's law. Anyone who's ever joined a CGM Facebook group can attest to this. After 6 years of working closely with clients in the fitness industry, and as an eating disorder survivor myself, I see the allure of the CGM's strict rules and clean beauty philosophy. I really do. There's an illusion of complete control that comes from restricting, particularly if you're sold a guarantee of incredible results. But that's also what makes it potentially dangerous. It works like a fad diet. Amazing results at first, but then you plateau. And when you plateau, you generally respond by either doubling down, going more strict and more restrictive than ever, or swinging violently in the opposite direction. Either way, the results don't last, and you're left with a heap of shame and a deep-seated feeling that you're a failure. Even if it doesn't damage your physical health, in this case, the long-term physical health of your hair, it can absolutely do lasting emotional and psychological damage. Of course, I'm not saying that this is going to happen to everyone who follows the Curly Girl method, but I do encourage that you approach it with caution and critical thought. If something Massey recommends doesn't sit right with you, don't do it. And please, if you have a history of restrictive or obsessive behavior, just stay away. I promise a more balanced approach will benefit you and your mental health far more in the long run. Okay, that was a lot, and I honestly still feel like I barely scratched the surface, which means it's time for a series. This video joins my silicone deep dive from last week to mark the beginning of a series that I am doing all about the inner workings of the Curly Girl method and the actual science of curly hair care. Don't worry, you'll still get product reviews and styling tutorials, but I am so excited to bust some curly hair myths and really dive into the science behind it all and share everything that I've learned with you guys. If you're as pumped as I am, make sure that you are subscribed and that you have your notifications turned on so that way you can be the very first to know whenever I upload a new video. And with that, we have come to the end of today's video. What did you guys think? Go ahead and drop a comment down below with any of your thoughts, opinions, and impressions on this video, as well as any of your experiences with the Curly Girl method, modified or original recipe. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, hit it with a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really does help to support the channel, and it gives me a better idea of the kind of content that you guys want to see so I can make the Fit Curls the best fit for you. Make sure that you join the Fit Curls family all across social media as well. I spend most of my time on Instagram and TikTok, and I post different content there than I do over here. So make sure you get the whole picture and join me all across all platforms. With that, thank you guys so much for watching this video and bearing with my intense nerddom and continuing to support the Fit Curls. Love your curls, love each other, think critically, and I will see you all next time. Bye!
Oh, you don't like botanicals, Sadie? Actually, dogs can't have them, they'll die. You can't have essential oils, you'll die.
Yeah, most people shouldn't have them either.
You don't like them?
You're doing good, baby. I love you.
Can you pet? Oh, good girl.
She's like, I need attention and affection. I love you.